Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EPA WaterSense Program's webinar, T for Track, Tracking Water Savings and Recognizing Success. This webinar is the fourth and final training session of WaterSense's 2015 webinar series to help hotels and other commercial and institutional facilities assess, change, and track their water use. I'm Laura Wetzel, a supporting contractor to EPA's WaterSense program, and I'll be moderating this presentation. I'd like to start today by introducing the presenters you'll be hearing from today. Hosting this webinar is Tara O'Hare with the WaterSense program. Tara is the implementation and commercial outreach lead for WaterSense. She's responsible for program operations, partner support, and outreach to commercial and institutional facilities. Tara was responsible for the release of WaterSense at Work, Best Management Practices for Commercial and Institutional Facilities, and is currently managing the Hotel Challenge. Our other speaker today will be Andrea Schnitzer from EPA's Energy Star program. Andy is a national program manager for the Energy Star program and manages the program's training curriculum, as well as the annual Energy Star National Building Competition. Before we begin, a few quick housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted to minimize background noise. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it into the chat box on the upper right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll have a dedicated time for questions at appropriate breaks throughout the presentation. Now I'd like to hand it over to Tara O'Hare. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you all for joining us today for the final webinar of our 2015 Technical Training Series. First up on the agenda, for those of you who are new to this webinar series, I'll provide some context for why it's so important for facilities to save water and energy. Then I will give a general profile of water use in commercial and institutional buildings and some details about water use in hotels specifically. I'll then provide a brief overview of the WaterSense program and the WaterSense Hotel Challenge. This will include what tools and resources the WaterSense program and this Hotel Challenge in particular can provide to help you manage and reduce your facility's water use. We'll do a quick recap of the steps of water management planning before taking a deeper dive into evaluating your facility's progress towards its goals and recognizing success. We'll then hand it over to Andy Schnitzer to go through Energy Star's Portfolio Manager and some of Energy Star's other useful resources to track utility costs and usage. We'll take breaks at appropriate points throughout the presentation to take your questions. Before getting started, we wanted to just take a quick poll to try to understand who's training today and what their various interests in water efficiency might be, and how much background you might already have about the WaterSense program or commercial and institutional water use. So if you could just take a moment to answer the poll question, that would be fantastic. Okay. It looks like we've got a pretty good amount of our partners on the call, which is great, a few hotels and some other stakeholders, so we appreciate you taking the time to listen in today and to learn more about this. So if you've been tuning into our other webinars this year, you've seen how drought has persisted in the western part of the United States throughout the year. But as the earlier maps show on this slide, drought can pop up in many different areas depending on the climate patterns. So it can impact regions all across the country. These droughts and water shortages are no longer the exception, they're the reality. In addition, the uncertainty of weather events and the risks of water shortages will continue to increase with the changing climate. These maps were taken from the drought.gov website, which is maintained by the National Drought Mitigation Center, and are updated every week based on the current drought conditions. On the maps, you'll see different colors The darker colors indicate where there is a more extreme drought situation. So you can see in this example that most of California is in extreme drought, and also parts of the upper Pacific Northwest. So, but in previous years, it's definitely been all over the country. So it's going to continue to change all the time, so it's always helpful to be prepared. Now I'd like to get into some of the benefits of pursuing greater water efficiency and energy efficiency at the facility level, as the driver for these efforts usually comes down to the bottom line. So as you already know, reducing water use and energy use reduces your operating costs by lowering your utility bills. That one's pretty basic. Nationally, water and sewer rates have also been rising at a much faster rate than inflation and can vary depending on local conditions. This is a factor that makes it very difficult for facilities to plan for their future, because it's difficult to project their future operating costs if the rates are changing so much. Saving water can also save the energy used to heat and pump the water. Being proactive about managing fixtures and systems can improve equipment efficiency, which often reduces maintenance costs and man-hours required for repairs. While reducing your bottom line, saving water and energy can also increase your competitive advantage. Consumers and shareholders are placing more importance on green programs and sustainability initiatives. Many hotels and other commercial and institutional facilities are also reducing utility use to be proactive in the face of increasing uncertainty, whether that be uncertainty in future rate increases or uncertainty in resource availability, as we saw in those maps, or it could be in cases of drought, as we were mentioning. Using water as efficiently as possible will only help facilities better control their utility costs and mitigate the risk of these future changes to water bills and water restrictions that may occur down the road. For example, if you're in an area susceptible to drought, being proactive about replacing your landscape with more drought-tolerant plantings will ensure that you can sustain a vibrant, aesthetic landscape even when water restrictions prevent you from irrigating. Finally, you can also demonstrate your leadership in your community and your willingness to contribute to conservation efforts by participating in programs such as the ones we're going to talk about today, the Energy Star National Building Competition, or others such as LEED, TripAdvisor's Green Leaders Program, or the WaterSense Hotel Challenge. So commercial buildings and institutional buildings use water in many different ways. This slide shows kind of a breakdown of the end uses of water in various types of commercial and institutional facilities. Depending on your different facility type and its operations, water can be used very differently. In general, sanitary water use in restrooms is a significant use of water no matter what type of facility. It can account for approximately 30 to 45% of total water use. But there are certainly water uses in other areas of facilities that are significant, but they're only often sometimes for specific facility types. For example, restaurants' major water use comes from dishwashing and food preparation, whereas hotels and hospitals might use a significant amount of water for laundry. During our June webinar, we reviewed how to conduct a water assessment. Essentially, a water assessment can help facilities understand the areas where water is used and provide an idea of the relative consumption, such as those in the graph above. This information really enables facilities to target their high water use areas and identify some specific cost-effective savings opportunities. So for our hotel participants, here's a more detailed breakdown of water use in the average hotel. There are a number of places where you might be using and potentially wasting water at your hotel. And many of this depends on the different amenities that you have within your facility, whether that be a pool or a spa, or if you have an on-site restaurant or kitchen. A lot of those factors will affect your water use. In all cases, guest bathrooms are a great place to start, since they account for approximately 30% of the average hotel's water use. Water use in guest rooms is largely impacted by plumbing fixture use, so this is a really great area to target. If your facility is older and hasn't gone through any recent renovations, WaterSense labeled toilets, faucets, and shower heads can offer efficient and high-performing and cost-effective options to help reduce your overall water use. There are a number of other opportunities for water savings depending on the hotel's amenities. linen laundry, landscaping, commercial kitchens, and heating and cooling all account for significant water use within hotels. In our October webinar, C for Change, we highlighted some of the most cost-effective best management practices for reducing water use in commercial facilities. Now, just for a quick summary of the WaterSense program, although we have many partners, we also have other stakeholders. So just so you know, WaterSense is a voluntary program EPA launched in 2006. We worked with a variety of partners to promote water efficiency. Our end goal is to help organizations and consumers save water for future generations. The WaterSense label, which is displayed here on the right side of the slide, provides a simple way for consumers and businesses to identify water-efficient products, homes, and programs. More than 16,000 different models of plumbing fixtures and irrigation products have earned the label to date. All products receiving the label have been independently certified for water efficiency and performance to ensure that they perform as well or better than their conventional counterparts. And this is a very important part of the WaterSense program because in the beginning of low flow fixtures, there was not performance testing and some of them didn't work. So it's very important to make sure that just because you have something doesn't mean it's saving water if you have to use it twice as long. So we try to make sure that each one of our products has a specific message and a specific performance criteria to ensure that it works just as well. WaterSense approaches water efficiency from many angles to get the information out as widely as possible. We assess and develop technical specifications to label fixtures and technologies, as I just mentioned, to help those consumers and businesses identify these simple ways to find water-efficient products. In addition, we've also developed best management practices to help professionals design, operate, and maintain commercial and institutional facilities, as well as residential landscapes, as efficiently as possible. We work with our partners and stakeholders, such as utility providers, municipalities, states, and other organizations, and organizations like yourselves, to educate users and change behaviors to save water in other aspects of daily water use. And finally, we organize outreach and marketing campaigns, such as the Hotel Challenge, to get the word out to different stakeholders about our products, practices, and partners that can be used to help reduce overall water use. As many of you are probably aware, the Hotel Challenge was started to promote and encourage best practices to reduce water use in hotels. So in addition to the WaterSense label, we have been working quite well with our sister program, the Energy Star program, that's also with EPA. And with these labels, you can they really indicate superior water and energy efficiency and cost savings for you. There are more than 45,000 Energy Star qualified product models, and there's a very wide-ranging list of anything basically that uses any energy within any facility. So I encourage you to take a look if you're considering doing any sort of a replacement or retrofit in your facility. We've also worked with Energy Star to make sure that water factors are specifically included in some of their water using specifications. So we've worked to include water factors in ice machines, steam cookers, dishwashers, and clothes washers. And in addition to that, many other of these Energy Star qualified products reduce water use indirectly with their overall efficiency. So a more efficient boiler or a more efficient steam system will also reduce water use because it uses less altogether. So the WaterSense program, as I mentioned, has developed some product specifications for many of the residential and commercial products that can be used in hotels and other commercial facilities. As I mentioned, the label is generally reserved for products that use at least 20% less water and perform as well or better than their less efficient counterparts. Through 2014, WaterSense has helped consumers save over 1 trillion gallons of water and over $21.7 billion in water and energy costs. And we're happy to announce that our next commercial product specification will be released soon, actually in a couple weeks, and it will cover flushometer valve toilets, which are found in commercial buildings. It will help us to save even more water nationwide, so start looking for labeled products in early 2016. So we also have been working, that's our main product, but we also have several others like prevent spray valves and controllers that are also primarily used in commercial marketplaces as well. As I mentioned before, WaterSense also works to create best management practices for commercial buildings, and these can be used in any sort of setting. We created them back in 2012 to really put together a compendium of all of the different technologies and systems within a building that use water, and how each one of those could be retrofitted, replaced, or just managed better in their operation and maintenance phases. So the guidebook includes best management practices in all of these different categories, and in each category there are product and equipment specific chapters that cover the really very specific information about each system and product. So as part of the Hotel Challenge over the past 2 years, we've gone through a lot of these best practices in detail. So I encourage you to view our recorded webinars on the WaterSense website if you'd like more information. Or you can actually just go and read the best management practices as well. So a bit of background about the Hotel Challenge is that we decided that we wanted to try to promote these best practices with a specific market in the commercial sector. So we launched the Hotel Challenge back in February of 2014. The challenge encourages hotels to act, assess, change, and track their water use. While the challenge is focused on hotels, any commercial and institutional facility can use the information. The first step is to conduct a facility water assessment to evaluate and identify opportunities to reduce a building's water use. This step was covered in our June and August A for Assess webinars. The change portion involves implementing these best practices that we've just talked about to improve the products, processes, and practices within your facility to reduce water use. This was covered in our October C for Change webinar. And finally, we encourage you to track your water use before and after making changes so that you can measure your progress. We'll go through this section today. You can find all of this information and sign up for the challenge on the WaterSense website if you haven't already. So I just want to touch a little bit on water management planning, just to give you guys some context. And as many of you are aware, water and energy use is connected. So WaterSense and Energy Star have worked to create guidelines that match each other so that it can all be done at once. There's no reason to do these separately. Looking at your water and energy use together will only give you a more accurate picture of what's going on in your facility and what you can do to improve it. So the diagram on this slide gives you a visual representation of the management and planning process. This is further described within the water management planning section of WaterSense at Work and also in the Energy Star guidelines for energy management. While we haven't specifically talked about tracking in our webinar series yet, we've really been talking about it all along. In many ways, tracking is both where a management plan begins and where it ends. As soon as you make the commitment to use water more efficiently in your building, the next thing you want to do is establish a baseline so you know where you're at now. And of course, on the other side of things, tracking is how you measure the impact of what you've done and how you know what steps need to come next. So we're going to go through just a little overview of the last two steps that are here on the slide that cover the last two parts of the process. Which are to evaluate your progress and to recognize your achievements. As I mentioned before, we covered the first 5 steps that we briefly just were looking at in our previous webinars. So I put the links here so that you could go and take a look at them at your free time if you'd like, and you can find out more information about each one of these topics. And then we also just wanted to pull together all of the assessment resources that we have to really just help you if you're going to start the process and really just get a handle on your building's water use. And so we have the WaterSense Water Use Tool, which is created to look at the different projects that you could do in your facility and figure out which ones might make the most sense for you. And then we also have some worksheets and some other checklists and other information on our website. Energy Star has a ton of information on their commercial buildings page, so along with trainings and other information to make sure that you can really manage your building as efficiently as possible. We've also worked with a few different partners, such as the City of Boulder, to create a tool for all building types to look at their water use. They actually used our best management practices to put together an Excel-based tool for basically anyone to use in any building type. So we encourage you to take a look at that. It's all free. And then the South Florida Water Management District has made a self-assessment guide for doing a water audit at your facility. So I encourage you to take a look at that. They have some great calculators and worksheets to go along with their guidebook. So we like to make sure that we tell people about it. So if you want more information, these are some great places to get it. As soon as you make the commitment to using water more efficiently in your building, the next thing that you want to do is start tracking your water use so that you can establish a baseline and that you can figure out where you are now with your water use. So we really wanted to put together a couple of different points to drive home the point of why you should track water use. So after you've made your baseline, it's very helpful, as we mentioned, to measure the impact of the projects that you've done, the equipment that you've replaced, or any of the practices that you've changed along the way, because that's really the best way to determine the success of your actual projects and how much water and energy you may be saving. Another benefit is that you can really keep a handle on your costs. As I mentioned, the water and sewer rates are, right now they seem affordable compared to energy, but they're increasing much faster than the energy rate. So it's very important to keep a handle on how much you're actually paying for water, because it can be actually one of the bigger water using or water costs within a facility is actually the water. Especially in some commercial buildings, for example, while energy is frequently paid for by a tenant, often the water is on 1 meter for the entire building. So the water bill in these types of facilities are really huge, and they can be one of the largest operational expenses for a property. And as it's pretty common as well for sewer charges to be calculated based on water use. So therefore, reducing water use can also save your sewer costs as well. This is not always the case, but sometimes your sewer charge will show a different value if the water being used doesn't necessarily generate wastewater, such as evaporation from a cooling tower or evaporation during an irrigation system where it's independently metered or sub-metered. If you're properly tracking your water use, it really provides an incredible amount of information that can help you manage your facility efficiently. Tracking water use can help you identify the areas or technologies that should be targeted for improvement. It can also help you quickly find anomalies and fix leaks at your facility. The faster you can find and fix the problem, the lower your costs. So the focus of today's webinar will be on tracking ongoing water use and savings, evaluating progress, and recognizing success. In order to evaluate your progress, it's important that your water management team conducts a periodic review of the water use data and your water management plan. As we discussed in our June webinar, your water management team should include stakeholders from different parts of your facility or company, including facility management staff, building engineers, environmental personnel, and other managers. In addition, it's best practice to conduct a full facility water assessment every 4 years to evaluate operational changes, monitor improvements, and identify new opportunities, and that will help you continuously improve your water management plan. Now we'll get into some more detail about each one of these suggestions. To assess whether your facility is on track to meet your water efficiency and water management goals, you really want to review your water bill and meter data to verify that you're seeing the expected savings. After all, investing time and money into water efficiency projects is only fun when you're seeing positive results. Water use data can be easily tracked in Energy Star's Portfolio Manager, which will be discussed later today, or if you have another utility tracking system, you can use that as well. Even outside of the more formal reviews, your facility manager or a representative from your water management team should be monitoring your water bills to ensure the facility is moving towards its goals. This can also help to identify uncharacteristic spikes in use that could indicate a significant water leak or major operational change. While assessing water bills and the meter readings is a great way to quantify the success of your efforts, there are also possible ancillary benefits that can result from some of your projects. For example, if you replace older plumbing fixtures with newer models, you can reduce the number of service calls or malfunctions that occur, allowing your maintenance staff to focus on other areas. So those benefits should be assessed too. To best be able to measure your success compared to your goals, there's a few best practices to consider. You should organize your data into reports or trends that can also consider external factors that may have impacted your water use. For example, if you added a new addition to your hotel or a facility that increased your overall water use, it's important to note that or create metrics that account for this so that you make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. Good metrics for hotels to consider are water use per square foot or water use per occupied room, since these are the factors that can change regularly and have a large impact on water use. Keeping these external factors in mind not only tells you if your water use went up or down, but why. It's also important to review your water and energy savings along with the cost implications. If you saved water as a result of a project, but the operational cost savings were not as substantial as you expect, it's important to note this so that you can better estimate your potential cost savings in the future. If you have sub-meters on particular systems that you've been upgrading, make sure you monitor these meters closely to make sure that you're getting the expected savings that you hoped for. When undertaking a large capital project on a large system, such as replacing a laundry system, cooling tower, or irrigation system, consider installing a sub-meter if you don't already have one so that you can continue to measure its performance over time. Also, if possible, compare your performance to peers or other competitors wherever you can. For hotels that are part of a hotel group or larger corporation, compare your results with other hotels that have similar amenities and accommodations to see how you measure up. This is also a great opportunity to share lessons learned and successes between facilities. Knowing what's worked and what hasn't for other facilities that are similar to yours should really weigh into your decisions to pursue certain projects. One of the main objectives of evaluating your progress is to review and revise your water management plan. After all, your facility water management plan is meant to be a living document. It's not meant to be sitting on a shelf. As part of that plan update, you should be incorporating any projects that you completed. Also, reassess your goals to make sure that they're still reasonable and achievable under your planned time frame. When revisiting your plan, discuss it as a group to learn what worked well and what didn't, so you can identify future best practices for implementing water efficiency projects. You can try to identify critical factors that may have contributed to surpassing your goals or missing the target. Determine where additional resources may be needed to dedicate to your water management efforts. Also, you can get feedback from everyone on the water management team, as well as the staff that have been implementing some of these projects. It can be really beneficial to interview other staff that might have been impacted by certain projects to see if there are problems with user satisfaction or if everybody's happy. For example, if a water efficiency project results in someone's work taking twice as long, that's something you want to assess and possibly mitigate. Another best practice is to gauge awareness throughout your hotel or organization. You can poll your employees periodically to see if they're aware of water issues and your management goals to see if awareness is improving over time. Lastly, you can try to quantify additional benefits that you may have realized from water efficiency projects. These ancillary benefits can be things such as productivity improvement, sales impacts, reduced operation and maintenance expenses, or better community relations. As I mentioned, you should conduct another formal facility water assessment every 4 years and fully develop a new water management plan. This will allow you to update your water balance to account for savings you've achieved from your implemented projects, to update your water management goals, and develop a new list of water saving opportunities to ensure you can continue to make progress. So there are some advantages to reviewing these plans, and I know that we are suggesting that you look at them and review them once a year. It can be a really good exercise in itself, so we wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit as well. One of the basic things is that it really just creates new insights and for new options or future projects that your facility can consider. It can also allow you to have that open discussion about what types of technologies and practices worked well at your facility and what project ideas came up short. This can really help you prioritize your future resources and activities. Revisiting your action plan can also help assess the usefulness of your tracking system or your metrics. Are you capable of collecting useful data, or are there other additional tools and metrics that you should consider to better manage your water use? We've gone over this next point in a few webinars, but reassessing your water management plan allows for a formalized opportunity for staff to contribute to your water management planning efforts and allows for feedback. And finally, it allows you to compile success stories and savings results so that they can be communicated inside and outside of your organization. Another major benefit is that when you have this water management plan in place, it allows you to be ready for any changes within your facility's conditions. So if there are increases in your budget, for example, you'll have a specific list of projects that you can suggest right away and have very tangible things that you can add to a possible improvement. And that, at least from my experience, has been a better way of actually getting additional money for projects, is to have that list ready. Or if there's, on the opposite side, if there are water restrictions put in place, you'll know exactly where you can go to find some of those water savings without having to do a full analysis at that point in time. And that brings me to our final step, recognizing achievements. And this, of course, is very important because we always want to recognize our achievements and celebrate our successes. After all, a lot of hard work goes into saving water, so it's very important to make sure that we celebrate it. As part of this step, you should really recognize the individuals within the organization that helped achieve these positive results and seek recognition from outside the company. We're going to give you a few examples of that today to help you get a sense of what programs may be available or competitions that you might be able to participate in. But it can be really helpful to validate the importance of the water management plan and the whole management process to your upper management within your facility, and also to show your employees that it's important to participate in the process, that it's not just something that they're doing because they have to, that there's a good reason. So recognizing support staff and management who have helped you, or businesses, helped your hotel or business achieve your water management goals can really help motivate the staff and really brings positive exposure to the water management program as a whole. If you're a single facility or hotel, recognize individuals or teams that have made the biggest strides. If you're a larger hotel group or own many facilities, consider setting up a friendly competition between facilities to encourage action and reward the winning facility. Achievements to recognize can also include offering the best water savings idea or project, achieving the greatest water use reduction, or increasing dollar savings by a certain dollar amount. Recognition can be in the form of a formal acknowledgement or a certificate, a salary increase, or a cash bonus if it's included in your performance reviews, or more simple forms of appreciation such as reusable water bottles, mugs, t-shirts, and other gear that might be celebrating your progress as you go. As an example, WaterSense invited Caesars Entertainment to share a case study last year. As part of their Code Green program, they engaged employees with an incentive program used to reward employees who completed sustainability projects. Not only that, but they also will reward employees for implementing sustainability initiatives at home, including water conservation, waste reduction, and energy conservation projects. Credits earned in this program can then be traded in for cash, vacation days, or other rewards. As of 2013, more than $60,000 in rewards had been given out to employees for their efforts. And that's a really, really strong, that's a lot of money and a lot of strong support from the management, and designates why this is really important to do. Sometimes just a little incentive or additional recognition can go a long way as well to encourage the employee participation and really sustain the momentum of your water management program over time. While your internal recognition can help sustain your program momentum and employee morale, the external recognition is also a great way to recognize the success of the entire team and validate the program's importance. You can post your water management goals and share your progress on your hotel's webpage and social media sites. This ensures potential guests and other interested parties that they know that the sustainability and water conservation is one of your facility's priorities. Similarly, your company's achievements in annual sustainability reports or corporate newsletters can be another option for getting this information out to stakeholders. Another popular option for attaining recognition is through the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED program, which certifies new and existing buildings for sustainable design, construction, operation, and maintenance. The LEED certification includes credit points for water efficiency. And finally, consider participating in programs or competitions that encourage water use reductions. Some examples include the EPA National Building Competition, which recognizes top water savers, which we're going to talk about today, or there are other programs like the Department of Energy's Better Building Challenge or TripAdvisor's Green Leader program that provide other competitions and programs that you can consider participating in. Also, your local municipality or utility may have similar programs that offer recognition for hotels that reduce their water use. All of these opportunities are great ways to get the word out about your efforts to reduce water use and demonstrate your leadership to others. And now I'd like to open up the floor to questions about these last two steps of water management planning, the evaluating progress and recognizing achievements.
So we don't have a question about that, but we do kind of have a question about the relationship between Energy Star certified products and WaterSense labeled products. So do they have the same, like if you are getting an Energy Star certified product, are you getting the same amount of water savings as a WaterSense labeled product, or what's the difference? Can you clarify it for the participants?
Yeah, so the Energy Star program and the WaterSense program use the same certification system, which basically means that we use similar methods to create specifications, and we have similar testing processes for each of the products. But the specifications that we write, which are the parts that determine what the level of water use or the level of energy use for each one of these things, is a separate thing. So recently we've been working more closely together to try to find places where there's an overlap. So we did work together on the prevent spray valves that we mentioned before, and we're trying to find other ways to do that in the coming years, because WaterSense is still relatively new, but we don't have right now we don't have many products that overlap with in terms of the products that have specific specifications. So it's just basically the one that we have now, because Energy Star really works on the energy using products and we work on the water using products. But in a lot of cases with the larger systems and the mechanical systems, like as we mentioned before, you're going to get water and energy savings whenever you put in a more efficient system, because it's just going to use less overall. So we don't necessarily have a specific specification for that on the water side, but it's included in there because you are saving water.
That makes sense. So we don't have additional questions at this time, so I think we can go ahead and hand it over to Andy Schnitzer, the National Program Manager for EPA's Energy Star program. Andrea?
Thanks very much. So I think what I'm going to speak to will complement a lot of what Tara had already spoken about with respect to the value of tracking, as well as sort of what you can do once you've done the tracking, done your improvements, what you can look forward to in terms of recognition. So I'll talk a little bit about our program, Portfolio Manager, which is our energy and water tracking tool, a little bit about trends we've seen in properties benchmarking over time, and end with a little bit of an overview on the National Building Competition. So many of you probably are familiar with the Energy Star program purely from the product perspective, but we also support or recognize superior energy efficiency in commercial buildings as well as homes. And we provide recognition in each of these categories for products. It's a little blue label that you see in the stores on the product packaging. Similarly, we do the same thing for buildings as well as homes. The program also provides a number of free tools and resources. We are a government program, so everything we offer is free. Some of the most important ones are our guidelines to energy management, which are very much in parallel with what WaterSense promotes from their perspective in terms of what is good water management. We also provide great resources for commercial buildings on the communication side as well, what we call Bring Your Green to Work, which in this graphic is in the lower right. The intent here is everybody does their part for energy efficiency at home. Why not educate them to bring their green to work and start implementing those practices there as well? So on the communications and technical side, there are a number of resources we provide. And then we do also have a bit of analysis. As I'll talk about in a moment, we have a database that holds more than 425,000 properties that are currently tracking their energy or water use. And we've done a little bit of research to show you what we found to be the trends in these properties that are tracking their data. So next slide. So the tool that we provide is called Portfolio Manager. It's free, secure, and online. It has become the industry standard for tracking building energy and water consumption, largely, I think, because it is this free resource that people can tap into. As I mentioned, there's more than 425,000 buildings across the nation using it. Every type of building is capable of leveraging the tool in some way. We do know that there's about a quarter of those buildings that are currently tracking water in the tool. Aside from just providing a way to sort of enter data and look at trends, there are a lot of different metrics that you can pull out, some of them calculated, some of them sort of very unique and calculated based on other metrics from other databases. So for example, we can give you weather normalized energy use as well as emissions data. And we can also take the data that you give us and provide it back to you in ways that show normalization for different other key metrics that you may have included, such as water use per square foot, including cost factors, and other similar metrics. So there's a lot of diversity, a lot of potential power in the information that it puts out. Right now, aside from sort of the massive count of properties using the tool has also been picked up by a number of municipalities, state and local jurisdictions that actually have energy and water benchmarking mandates. Many of them are in major cities such as San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and we see those continuing to grow every year. Next slide. So I wanted to just give you a quick overview of what it looks like, what the interface looks like in case you've never been inside. I know that there are a number of hotel chains that have their own dashboards or other tracking systems. That's great. That does not preclude you from potentially leveraging Portfolio Manager and taking advantage of a number of the metrics that are specially calculated in it. A quick overview of what this screen is. This is the landing page for an account. Across the top, there are tabs that allow you to do a number of activities, including sharing, planning, including looking at goals and progress toward goals, reporting, so generating reports and graphics, and then recognition. We do recognize properties that score, that basically perform at the top 25th percentile of buildings of their type. So that's an opportunity for you to get recognition there. On the left side, you can see data trends over time. So right now, this is just for energy. We may, in the future, add some charts for water to this page. And then in the middle, you can see your list of properties that are in the tool. So this account happens to have 48 properties. Next slide. So once you've created a property, you can enter meter data into it in a number of ways. You can enter it manually. I'm sure our hotels here have quite a number of properties within their portfolio, so we do provide an opportunity to bulk upload data via a spreadsheet that's available in the tool. And then, as I sort of mentioned earlier, if you are already using or have a service and product provider that you are using, there is an opportunity for them to connect to Portfolio Manager on the back end and communicate with the tool by exchanging data via web services. You can also do this, incidentally, with your utility. So if you are interested in starting to use the tool and want to do it sort of on a larger level, you can certainly contact your utility to speak with them about their connection with the tool. So in terms of the types of water and meter availability for tracking water at the property level, we provide indoor, outdoor, and all meters for a number of different types of water use, including the ones listed here. Next slide. So I did mention there are reports that you can generate in the tool. This is really useful for people who just want a quick visualization of what's going on in their portfolio. Here you can see some charts and graphs that are auto-generated for indoor water use intensity, and we've broken these out. You can create groups within your portfolio, so you can look at groups of hotels or properties at different locations geographically or otherwise. And you can also look at different property types. So you may have a bunch of hotels in your portfolio, but perhaps you also have a suite of offices that you manage if you're a REIT, for example. You can create your own custom reports. Again, there's more than 150 metrics to choose from, so you can be looking at efficiency metrics related to cost or water use or emissions associated with energy use. So there's a lot of flexibility here using what we have or creating something completely new and all your own. Next slide. So as I mentioned, one of the I would say benefit, but I think good fortunes I think that we have of supporting a database like Portfolio Manager is that there are just so many properties in it. In the last couple of years, we've really seen incredible growth in the tool, and so we started to look into it to see what we can describe about the properties that are benchmarking in it. So we're in the process of updating the study right now, but in 2010 we took a look at the properties that were in the tool at the time, and we were looking at buildings only that consistently benchmarked over a 4-year period. And what we found was that that set of buildings actually reduced their energy use by on average about 7% if they were benchmarking over a consistent 4-year period. And so we haven't looked at this particular analysis for water, but sort of what we're fond of saying here is that you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think to a large degree this is what we're seeing. People who are consistent, who are tracking, who are at least looking at their energy and water metrics, that's the first step to at least being aware of what's going on. So for example, even if you aren't implementing any behavioral or capital improvements, if you do see a spike in water use, most likely that's a leak. And so that could be something just by virtue of tracking your water use that you're able to address and manage immediately without losing resources, financial or physical. So again, we're going to update this. It'll be updated in 2016, and that'll be up on our website at energystar.gov/datatrends. So in terms of the training resources, if this is of interest to you and you want to check it out, thankfully we have some really quick, short videos that you can take a look at to get set up pretty quickly. We have actually a set of 8 videos that'll get you in the know pretty quickly within about a total of 40 minutes, just 5 minutes each. We have a lot of PDF quick start guides, and just like WaterSense, we do a lot of live and recorded webinars. So once you get started, you can take a look at our webinar schedule, and there's a bunch of 101, 201 trainings, and a number of other resources available, webinars that we run monthly, if not quarterly. So I did want to cover a little bit more, or give you a little bit more information about recognition specifically with respect to the National Building Competition. And I'll run through this a little bit quickly, just being cognizant of the hour as it is. The National Building Competition is the largest competition of its kind. In the last year, we had close to 7,000 properties from across the nation participating. And we recognize properties for energy and water efficiency improvement. In the past, it's been over a 12-month period. So we've had a number of really wonderful organizations and businesses participating. We've had the Cardinals in Busch Stadium, which was really fun to see. We've had a number of major league teams competing. And then we've had a number of other organizations that represent all sorts of building types. The cities are interesting because they represent fire stations, courthouses, all sorts of public sector buildings. And then we've had a number of hotel chains, including HEI hotels, Lowe's hotels. We've had a couple Super 8s and Hyatt hotels, an occasional Marriott. So we do also see some activity with hospitality as well. Next slide. So I did just want to just give you an example of what we see sometimes with some of our winners. So last year, our third overall was a Transwestern property and office in Colorado. And we give awards. Last year, we gave awards for 20% reduction as well as the top-ranked properties. This particular property reduced its water use by 75% in 12 months. And we do get some case studies from our winners because we like to be able to show people a little bit, give people a little bit more information about what's going on. And this particular property focused on finding and fixing leaks. They had huge leaks in their irrigation system. They also had toilets that were flushing constantly. And aside from sort of doing these fixes, they also implemented a lot of sort of process fixes, meaning they shut off irrigation to areas that were already receiving sufficient water. They worked on their timers and working with the weather to make sure that they weren't being redundant in how they were using their water. So this case study and a bunch of other case studies with more detailed information are available on the competition website, which is listed in these slides, which I believe you should get after the presentation. Next slide. So a quick overview of the battle. This coming year, in 2016, we are going to be doing a boot camp style competition. It is going to be a 3-month competition, and the reason that we've moved to 3 months is because we really feel that this helps to engage from not just from our perspective from EPA to organization, but it really helps you, the organization, engage the people in your building better to do really a very focused, short, intense competition. And in fact, it helps to focus more on behavioral improvements rather than the capital improvements. And you can see a lot of impressive savings if you're just looking at behavior as well. So we will be posting more information about the rules and FAQs in January on the competition website. The competition itself will run from September to November of 2016. Any property type can join and compete. And recognition is based on percent improvement of each building. So each building is essentially competing against itself, and the ranking, the finishers are based on who has the greatest percentage improvement over this 3-month period. And to earn recognition, winners must have their data validated by a licensed professional. Next slide. Just a quick overview of some of our resources. We will be coming out shortly with an energy and water treasure hunt guide, which is really great to use in conjunction just before or with the National Building Competition to help you get set up and identify all the places you could save water. And then when we press go on September 1st, you implement all those measures. The building upgrade manual that I spoke about. We do have a lot of other communication resources tied to the National Building Competition to help you get the word out, as well as some customizable templates listed here. Next slide. A little bit of information about choosing buildings. I encourage you to choose buildings that actually are poor performers. Don't be embarrassed to enter them. The whole point of this competition is really to help you improve and improve quickly. So if this is of interest to you all, I would definitely look across your portfolio and identify those properties you could enter for energy or water. Definitely look at kind of the water hogs, and then think about what it is that you could do in the coming months to start to reduce the consumption. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tara, and I think we may have a little bit of time for questions.
Yes, thank you, Andy. I think that thanks for giving that overview. There's a lot of great functionality within the Portfolio Manager tool, and also a great opportunity, especially in a lot of the water wasting or water hog areas. That example was really good to show that doing some basic things within a facility can also get you a huge improvement at the same time.
Sorry, so we do have one question. So Cooper is wondering, will Portfolio Manager be able to analyze landscape-only meters marked based on landscape square feet, input factors, and plant water requirement budgets? For mixed-use meters, will there be a method to normalize for interior usage? And benchmarking will happen when in the tool? So there's a number of questions in there. So I guess the first part is, can we have landscape-only meters in Portfolio Manager and benchmark based on landscape square feet?
The short answer is yes. You can create and designate a meter as long as you're metering something specifically. As long as you can track it, you can put it in Portfolio Manager. So if you are separately metering your outdoor water use, then certainly you can input it into the tool.
And does the benchmarking process happen on a regular basis? I'm guessing that's kind of a continuous thing, or is it certain periods of time?
Well, the benchmarking is basically inputting your data. So right. Portfolio Manager takes data on basically a monthly basis. So whatever bills you get in the mail, you can enter them into the tool. So you put in the dates of your bill and you put in your usage. So ideally we recommend that you do this continuously so that you can get your trend data continuously. Although I understand that people, depending on when their data is available, will do it quarterly. Some people do it even in longer increments than that, but the value here really is in looking at your data consistently over time so that you're aware of the trends so that you can see when there's an outlier.
Excellent, thanks Andy, and that goes right along with the theme of our webinars today, and which is really the importance of tracking. So once again, you can really make a lot of improvements. Before we get to our next our wrap-up slides, we just wanted to ask if any of you would be willing to share a case study on any of the water management planning efforts that you've done, or if you know of anyone that would be willing to share. We're always looking for case study speakers for webinars like this one and others that we're planning to do in the coming year. Okay. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, we hope that you found this webinar and the others in this series helpful. While this will be the last webinar of the Hotel Challenge in 2015, WaterSense will continue to provide helpful webinars and other resources. Starting in January, WaterSense is partnering more with Energy Star to host a new webinar series about water end uses for different commercial and institutional buildings. So we encourage anybody that's interested in water and energy management for commercial buildings to tune in. We'll be emailing an announcement to all of our stakeholders to let you know when these webinars will be hosted and how you can register. We have a couple of potential topics that we've listed here that we've considered. So these are just some of the things that you'll most likely see featured in the next year. So just keep an eye out for those. And if you, in the meantime, want some more information, we have all of our recorded webinars from this year and last year on the Hotel Challenge website for you to access at any point. And each one has a case study from a hotel to talk about what they did with their water use at that time. So we'll be posting a recorded version of this webinar in the next few weeks, but all of it's on that one page that's listed here on the slide. So in addition, earlier next year, we plan to launch a new WaterSense at Work Solution Center on the WaterSense website. And this is really just to make sure that all of the commercial facilities can find these awesome tools and the information that we've created throughout the Hotel Challenge and in the past few years to make sure that it's all in one place for everyone to be able to find it easily. So it's going to also include some shorter presentations to kind of cover some of the basics of the best management practices, just to kind of introduce the concepts to people and give you the sense of what kinds of things you can look for. We're also going to include more case studies as well as some other checklists and other resources that we'll be providing links to. A lot of other resources too. So if you have other resources that you think would be helpful, please just let us know, and we can. We're going to try to include as much as we can in the process. So for our Hotel Challenge participants, all of the helpful tools and resources that have been available throughout the challenge will continue to be available for use on the WaterSense webpage. This slide is just a reminder about the EPA tools available to help your hotel assess, change, and track your water use. So we will continue to be working on the Hotel Challenge. We have more than 860 hotels signed up so far from 42 different states, and 88 organizations have signed up to recruit and help these hotels. So we're continuing the challenge into 2016, and I think it's important to remember that this is a continuous process where you're tracking over time, and as you continue to see progress, you will continue to see more advantages to tracking and managing your water and energy use specifically. So we're really looking forward to seeing your progress in 2016. So we just wanted to wrap up with a few things that you can do right now. If you want to leave this webinar and go do something right now, first you can track your energy and water consumption in Portfolio Manager. As Andy mentioned, there are several ways that you can do that. They make it pretty easy. You can also check regularly throughout your facility for leaks and repair them as quickly as possible. And then you can use the Energy Star and WaterSense resources to really look at each part of your building and figure out what things you could do to improve it, improve your water use. So if you're in any sort of a commercial building, in terms of water use, we really encourage you to take a look at your mechanical systems, including an HVAC system, boiler, steam systems, the whole commercial kitchen equipment, which Energy Star has a great calculator for, and some laundry and sanitary systems where you'll find a lot of savings. So wherever possible, we also encourage the use of Energy Star qualified and WaterSense labeled products. And we encourage you to look for the upcoming webinar announcements because I think it's going to be great and it'll provide some more opportunities to learn from others as well. So our contact information is provided here on this slide. You can feel free to contact our helpline if you need anything. If you're not currently on our commercial or hotel specific mailing list, just let us know and we'll make sure you're added to get all of the information. Do we have any more questions?
There's a question that I think we'll just have Andy follow up with via email.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that we are getting close to, we're a little over the hour mark. So thank you all very much for joining us today. We are really excited to continue working with you beyond 2015 and into 2016. And we continue to encourage hotels and other commercial and institutional facilities to reduce their water and energy use. So thank you.